All right, howdy everybody, and welcome back to Solutions Focused. My name is Evan, and as always, we're going to be doing an article. I like to do articles because there is a lot of information contained within, and I think that it is important to know always what the other side is saying. So I myself am more of a centrist character. I lean libertarian conservative, so I guess you could say I'm center-right. But, of course, what does that mean anymore? Everybody's alt-right, everybody's a Nazi, everybody's a racist. So, as far as labels are concerned, I'm not too terribly, I shouldn't say concerned, because that's redundant, I think is the proper word. But anyway, you know what? Forget it. Let's just get started. If you like to support my work, please do share it with your friends because YouTube, of course, deranks independent commentary. So please, if you do enjoy what I do, and you do think it's valuable, please share it with your friends and family, if you have any. But, that's kind of messed up because there's some people that don't have family, and that's heavy stuff. But anyway, let's keep rolling. Today's article is by the Washington Examiner, so, again, it's written Sunday, August 11th by Hunter Lovell. So, Lovell? Lovell. So I've never read anything by this gentleman, Hunter. I guess Hunter, I know a girl named Hunter, so. Trying times. Hunter. Let's read this article by Hunter. 2020 presidential candidate and senator from California, Kamala Harris, on Sunday called Trump administration's decision to carry out immigration raids in the wake of two mass shootings a campaign of terror. Well, I guess that's her opinion. She can think that. I would say she's wrong. In an interview on NBC's Meet the Press, Harris noted the roundup of 680 suspected. Well, no, they're not suspected undocumented workers, and this is another euphemism that the left tries to use, undocumented worker. And that's not true. It is true that they are not documented, like they don't have the proper paperwork. But I think it's important to denote that this is illegal activity as opposed to legal activity. Sometimes people say immigrants, right? And it's like, no. Well, obviously, Trump's not rounding up immigrants. Trump's rounding up illegal immigrants. But I think most of you already intuitively understand that. So let's keep rolling. She believed that Hispanics were specifically targeted because the majority of detained workers were Latino. No. Okay, so just because the majority of workers detained were illegally working, and allegedly they were from Guatemala, actually, from some reporting. But just because they happen to be Hispanic doesn't mean that they were targeted because they were Hispanic, right? They were targeted because they didn't have proper documentation. So, I would assume that if, let's say, for instance, Finland or Norway, a country where the level of melanin in people's skin is not as high, were illegally immigrating to the United States and were getting jobs in these chicken processing plants, because that's what happened in Mississippi. Was they were working, I think it's 6 different plants were busted, resulting in a total of 680, if that's correct. But again, they weren't, if the Finnish or Norwegian immigrants were working, they'd be busted the same way these quote-unquote Latino people. But again, it's more about the race and not about the the crime that they committed. And I want to sympathize because I understand that where these people come from, it is not great. People that say America sucks, it's like, nah, man, America is truly awesome. It hasn't always been awesome for everybody, and we have worked gradually to make it better for people. And but anyway, again, these people weren't targeted because of their race. Anyway, let's keep rolling. This administration has directed DHS to conduct these raids as part of what I believe is this administration's campaign of terror. So that's going to be, I guess, a new narrative buzzword because they're repeating it so much, which is to make whole populations of people afraid to go to work. Well, they're not making whole populations of people afraid to go to work. They're making illegal workers afraid to go to the job that they're not legally allowed to have. So, which is to make whole okay, yeah, we already know. Harris said children are afraid to go to school for fear that when they come home, their parents won't be there. Look, it sucks, man, that their parents came here and broke the law to do it. It sucks because we have a lot of people waiting in line for a really long time that, I don't like line jumpers. I don't like people that cut in line. Like sometimes, I'll tell you the story. Check this out. It's, this isn't really about politics, but I live in Texas, and through this interstate highway, 35 is what we call it. It runs pretty much from South Texas all the way up to, I believe, Michigan. Like, I believe it stops somewhere near Lake, one of the Great Lakes. Some of y'all Yankees would know that. No, I'm just kidding. But it's a big highway, and sometimes it's under construction. Actually, I take that back. All the time it's under construction because of course, the increase in population, the amount of commerce that moves through there. And so what happens is sometimes, of course, you get like traffic backups and long lines. I'm sure that, this only happens in the big cities. It really doesn't happen. And, in Austin, Texas, it happens. In Houston, traffic's pretty bad. Sometimes in Fort Worth and Dallas, it can be pretty bad. But, everywhere else, generally, especially where I live, in Corpus, it's about 20 minutes to get anywhere. But anyway, sometimes there's these big, long lines. And people will actually try to drive off the highway and, get to the feeder road because there's no, concrete median. It's just grass. You can just roll, turn your 4x4 on and roll off. Or, even cars can do it sometimes if the hill isn't, too steep, because sometimes whenever your truck or car is going over like that, it'll actually bottom out. It'll sit on the chassis. Anyway, let's keep going. So children are afraid to go to school to fear. Yeah, man, I'm sorry. I wish they wouldn't have broken the law to come here. It sucks. Immigration officials called the raids the largest single state enforcement action in the nation's history. Well, immigration officials, I have no reason to believe that's a lie. Pro-immigration leaders condemned what they perceived as poor management by the administration to execute the raids just days after a shooting in El Paso, Texas, where the perpetrator declared in his alleged manifesto that he was specifically attacking Mexicans. Well, just because somebody took an action doesn't mean that, their actions aren't contingent upon the federal, the actions of the federal government are not contingent upon this individual's mass shooting. Just because this guy said something and did something really, really, really awful, truly, people say that evil doesn't exist. That's really evil, man. That's as evil as it gets, right? So anyway, let's keep going. They also noted that the families affected by the raids will be traumatized. Yeah, if I saw my dad or mom, or both, pulled away and, at a young age like that, I'm sure I would be too, pointing to videos circulating on social media that have shown children crying after their parents are sent to immigration and customs enforcement facilities around the country. So, there were reports of these people, these young children, those that had parents taken, were stranded at school and stuff. But if I'm not mistaken, it has also been reported that there are people that, good Samaritans that have come and, godparents and relatives and stuff, next of kin kind of thing. Anyway, crying that their parents were sent. Yes, we must point out and never condone anyone who uses their power in a way that fans it, Harris said. What exactly is he fanning white supremacy, I guess, is the implication. Harris said, or is it an inference? Because she didn't exactly say it. Comment below if it's an inference or an implication, because that's something that I don't know. Harris said, but the reality is that there are forms of hate that are not new to our country, which have, in the history of our country, taken lethal proportion and still today take on lethal proportion. Well, I agree with her and I disagree with her. I agree with her but the reality is that these forms of hate are not new to our country. That is true. It is also true that it's not new to any population of any people that have ever existed, because, I think that when we were tribal people, right, this was very much the mindset, right, that you are the other, and if you're not one of us, you're the other, and, do whatever you want to the other because they are not you, right? They are not us. They're not deserving. I don't believe that, obviously. I don't believe that. I guess that's the end of the article. So, what is to be done about these ICE raids? I don't think there's anything in particular that we can do, because the federal government is going to continue to enforce the laws that Congress passed. So, solutions to these problems. Maybe we need to start going after the businesses. And I'm a pretty capitalistic guy myself, right? I think that the free market has lifted half the world out of abject poverty since the 80s. I mean, the people that when I say abject poverty, I mean living on $1 a day. Yeah, so I think it's a good thing. But when businesses hire illegal immigrants cheaply for a lot lower than the minimum wage or whatever wage that an American worker would have negotiated with them, it means that they have a competitive advantage, because they don't have to pay their workers market wages or legal wages. And supposedly, now I don't know if this is true, but they had like a scheme where they would hire the management would hire the same illegal immigrants under like pseudonyms, and they had like fake social security numbers and fake IDs and that kind of thing. I don't know. I can't independently verify the veracity of those claims, but maybe a solution is to go after these businesses that are hiring illegal immigrants and say, hey, look, man, so the law currently states you have to knowingly hire them, and that's where you have some sort of legal culpability, or is it liability? Anyway, you get the idea. You are responsible for it in some sense, legally. So maybe we need to make those laws harsher and say, look, you can't be doing this. You are pricing American workers out of the system, as well as, obtaining illegal labor and creating a non-competitive, or no, I should say a competitive advantage illegally, right? So which would presumably not bode well for the company, but apparently in the past it was reported that this is not the case. Usually Uncle Sam doesn't go after businesses that do it. They just take the laborers, but the business got free work. What they did, I guess, was put these guys and gals and work, and then call ICE and say, hey, look, we've got this. But it seems to me that wasn't this. It's like it seems that the federal government did this independent of what's the word I'm looking for? Independent of them. Does that make sense? So another solution could be border security and shoring up that. Now, you're never going to stop everybody, obviously, and I know there's a lot of contention about the wall and whether or not that's a good idea. I think it is in some parts a good idea, but in other parts it doesn't make any sense. Like, I live down in South Texas, actually, and so parts of the border with Mexico are actually like rocky, not mountains, but big hills, and then remember to please like, share, and subscribe if you enjoy this content. Thank you for watching.